What's going on, guys, and welcome to another video. This one is a very special video. Today I am in Paris looking at another collection, and it could be related to adding some other cars to our collection that we're building here in the UK. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of a teaser on exactly what's going on. But I'm going to go around this collection and show you what's actually on offer. And when I say what's on offer, not only to view, but these cars are actually now for sale with Bonhams. If you don't know who Bonhams are, they're probably one of the world's most renowned auction houses, especially for cars, which is why we're here today. We have a 50+ movie car collection going up for sale here in Paris. So let me show you what's on offer, and then I'll take you through some of the key ones that maybe we might be looking at purchasing, or, you know, just of course, be in that nature of Fast and Furious cars specifically. So as you could probably tell from those cinematics, there is a lot of cars here from a lot of different movies that we all know and love. So I'm now going to take you around the entire museum and show you what's going up for sale. And of course, those all important cars from the movie car collection that we're building here in the UK. So firstly, as soon as you walk in, you are greeted by this absolute beast. This is a Batmobile. Now, this isn't just any Batmobile. This is an official Warner Brothers sanctioned Batmobile and created, and it was constructed around 1992, and it was used in the Batman stunt show at Six Flags Great America in New Jersey, the United States. Now, as most of you may have probably seen one form of Batman at some point or another, you'll probably recognize that most of them have these crazy body molds. And for this particular one, the body molds were used from the original 1989 Tim Burton Batmobile. And all around you can see that it essentially preserves the exact dimensions and detailing of Anton Furst's Academy Award-winning design. And I mean, unfortunately, it's not road legal, but just imagine seeing the rear end of this going down a motorway or a side street or something like that. You'd just be like, what the hell is going on? As most things are nowadays, it has a fiberglass body, and as you come into the cockpit here, you probably see the steering wheel is quite far back, because this is where the actor would sit for the essentially for the filming. And then behind here you would have a stunt driver that was essentially enclosed, so that obviously you couldn't see him. He would obviously be driving the vehicle as a stunt driver would. Now, two other cars that I'm going to touch on very, very lightly here is this BMW Z3, and behind it, this BMW 750. Now, this 750i was produced to be an evocation of the Tomorrow Never Dies BMW 750 IL. As you can see, it's got its replica guns on the dash and replica gadgets fitted throughout. It's got a lovely interior, to say the least. You've got this chain cutter at the front with the BMW pop-up badge. That is just so cool and very accurate to the film. It's also finished in the authentic, accurate BMW factory metallic silver with, of course, the BMW factory rims that match the screen car from the film. And underneath there is, of course, the infamous M73 V12 BMW engine. Now, although this isn't a screen-used BMW Z3 from any film, it does actually have a limited number of production of only 100. This is number 66 of 100 Neiman Marcus James Bond edition Z3s that were built to celebrate 007's return. This car has just 8,300 miles, possibly making it the lowest mileage Z3 in the world right now. I really love the Atlantic blue metallic. It's really, really bright, and it's a really popping color, especially under some of these lights here. And it really does go with the saddle interior. So, I mean, this would be a cool car regardless, but the fact that it's got some association with a limited production run that was related to James Bond really, really might put some eyes on this car for the auction. Then, of course, followed by another iconic car. This car, if you recognize it, was from Men in Black, and this was actually sat in by Will Smith himself. This car was previously registered to Columbia Pictures and has a certificate of authenticity to prove that. So anyone who loves the Men in Black movies will definitely be looking at this car, and I just think it's a really cool car. It's very iconic for those movies back in the day. Probably one of Will Smith's most known movies, or movies that he's most known for featuring in, apart from Bad Boys. But yeah, massive car with loads of history. And as you can see, this certificate of authenticity just placed there on the window for potential buyers and viewers at the museum. As we move into the interior, it's very, very American, with also some recreations of some little, I guess, like mutants or aliens that we see in the film. And of course, how could you not recognize this bright orange Dodge Charger sitting next to it? Whether you love the original or have seen the modern version with Johnny Knoxville, this is the screen used General Lee from the later movie with Johnny Knoxville. Originally, this was the production shell car, but later on it was completed and used as the hero/stunt car for pretty much everything in the film that didn't involve damaging the vehicle. Of course, you've got that iconic but nowadays controversial flag on the top. Of course, that infamous rear end that Bo Duke would have been showing to Billy in the race, especially at the end. An iconic race to say the least. And of course, the infamous jump scene, especially through the center of Atlanta when he went to visit his ex-girlfriend, I think it was, or current girlfriend at the university there. This car is offered with the Warner Brothers certificate of authenticity so that you know this became the hero stunt car #1, and any potential buyers would probably be quite astounded to have this in their collection because, again, this was the main car from the film. It has all the authenticity. It has, you know, it was built from a genuine 1968 Charger, but now disguised as a 1969 model. It still bears the production labels Car 19 and Pre-Hero 2 and Hero Stunt 1 applied by Warner Brothers Picture Department. Now, moving on, I actually really love this Peugeot, and that's probably the first time I've ever said I like a Peugeot. I mean, first of all, just look at that front bumper or splitter, depending on how you define it. You've obviously got the hood scoops on the top with Taxi Marseille. As most of you or some of you may know, based on that, and of course the descriptive plinth on the front, this car is from Taxi #2. And when I say from it, yes, this is also a screen-used car. Built by Christian Bonnichon for the production and driven by rally legend Jean Ragnotti. It's even signed by the legend Jean Ragnotti himself, who was the stunt driver for the film, alongside Sami Nassiri, who is the lead actor. Underneath this absolutely huge bonnet, it's powered by a 3-litre V6 24-valve engine paired with a 5-speed manual gearbox. I mean, to say the least, it just looks absolutely insane. Massive wing on the back. Probably some of the things we might associate with our UK car scene at the moment on how people do things. But realistically, if you saw this coming down the streets of Marseille or even in the UK, you probably think, Jesus Christ, this could mean some business. And as we get to look at have inside this car, just look at that shifter. It's absolutely massive. It kind of almost looks sequential. I doubt it is. It might be. I could be wrong. But nevertheless, a very, very cool interior. And honestly, I just want to figure out what this car is like to drive because it just looks insane. And from one taxi to another taxi, these are probably the two best Peugeots I've ever seen in my life. I think I might be converted at this point. Again, absolutely crazy body kit or wide arches. You've got massive scoops, and again, obviously replicated to be in the Taxi film. This is a replica of the Hero Taxi from Taxi 5, assembled using original production body kit components. So the accuracy levels for the body kit are obviously going to be very, very high. It's powered by a V6 engine and has that automatic transmission. Finished in the white with a full Taxi wide body kit, as mentioned, and aerodynamic spoilers, as you can see. Massive wing on the back, and it was a participant in the 2019 Gumball Rally. So this car's definitely done some miles to some extent, and I'd imagine they've all been very, very fun. You can just about see that interior there. So again, fairly standard. Obviously, probably wanted to be a fairly drivable example, but nevertheless, still very cool. Now, when you think of Mustangs, especially in the movie world, you normally think of John Wick. Wait till I get to that because there's something coming related to that. But the first one I think I ever recognized, apart from the Gone in 60 Seconds 1967 fastback, was of course Barricade from Transformers. Now, this particular replica for the Decepticon Barricade in Transformers was built by Razorfly Studios. If you can remember the film, this car was finished in the black and white police livery and, of course, had that "to punish and enslave" quote on the side. So this is fairly screen accurate to that car. As you can see, it's equipped with the correct Celine body kit, which includes the front bumper, the spoiler, which I'll get to in a moment. It obviously has the push bar. And then when you move down the side and you take a look at the wheels, they're obviously a matching design to the film. And as I said, there you go, the matching Celine spoiler. Personally, I think this is a pretty good replica for something like that. So if you're looking to get into movie cars, this would probably be a good start, especially for the Transformers. It's powered by a 4-litre V6, so not the V8 version. So if you did want to do an engine swap, this would be a great car to do it on. But is obviously automatic powered and is accompanied by a US title. And speaking of Transformers, we are not done yet. If you remember from the first movie when Sam Witwicky went to get his first car and obviously Bumblebee creeped up into the dealership, or the side road dealership, so to speak, this is what came up. In my opinion, a very, very convincing replica. I mean, the patina is almost on point. I love how the rust aspects and the kind of rugged aspects of this car have been built to be very similar or exactly the same to the film. This car was also built by Razorfly Studios, and like I said, the fake patina is just on point. And I know what you're probably thinking, Lucian, what's underneath this? So this has a 350 Ci V8 engine, so exactly what you'd probably expect for a car like this. And of course, as most American muscle cars are, an automatic transmission. But again, I love the matching interior to the car. I think this was very similar to the film as well. So again, a very convincing replica. It's a nice contrast between the two. And again, I just can't get over this fake patina. It's so good. Razorfly done an amazing job on making this look like the screen car. Now, moving on to another really cool movie car that is also screen used, is this Chevrolet Chevelle Malibu. For those of you who love Ryan Gosling, if you've seen Drive, this is one of 3 cars that came from that film. One of them was destroyed for stunt work, one of them Ryan Gosling personally owns, and the other one is sitting right here. It's powered by a 4.7-litre engine, that roaring V8 from the film. As we move to the back here, it's finished in that instantly recognizable primer grey paint, as you see in the film, chosen to reflect the driver's understated anonymous persona, essentially. They didn't want anything too bright for the film. They didn't want it to be too sort of classic and pristine looking. They really wanted that edgy kind of look, so that, when Ryan Gosling was driving this and doing what he was doing in that film, it made him a little bit mysterious and elusive, essentially. And of course, it's preserved its factory-style silver wheels as well. If you look inside, you can also see a version of Ryan Gosling's jacket that he does wear in the film, which is really, really cool. And then again, the driver's seat of where Ryan Gosling would have sat. Me personally, I think this is such an iconic rear end as well. I mean, American muscle cars, they're so huge. And when you're looking at those tail lights, especially if Ryan Gosling's in the driver's seat, you're going to be a bit like, damn, maybe I shouldn't be following him. Also, this car is equipped with a certificate of authenticity signed by William Billy Powell, who was the transportation department with these cars. So again, another screen use car that I think personally could be quite a significant value, especially to those who love certain automotive movies or, of course, are Ryan Gosling fans. Moving on, I don't really think this car needs an introduction, nor does the one next to it. Of course, we've got the Knight Rider Pontiac Fiber Trans Am, a David Hasselhoff car, to say the least. This is a replica, but it's extremely accurate. So well done to the team and the guys here who've obviously built this car to what it is. As we move inside, you got this crazy cockpit with kind of like a plane style steering wheel, if you want to call it that. And again, just look at the dials, the dashes, all the buttons, everything on there. As far as I know, this is working. So yeah, would be a really, really cool replica for a Knight Rider or a David Hasselhoff fan, sorry. And I'll be honest on this one. Of course, I know what the car is and where it's from. This is a recreation and another very, very good recreation of a movie car. This is the Gran Torino from Starsky and Hutch. Again, I'm not going to pretend I know too much about Starsky and Hutch or exactly this car, but again, it looks very, very convincing. And if you're a fan of those early automotive movies that have iconic cars like this, or very similarly to the General Lee that we just had a look at, this is definitely one to look at if you're interested. Now, definitely moving on to my personal favorite Mustang in here. This is a screen used John Wick 2 Mustang Mach 1 with a chassis number of 9T02 M168028. This was screen used throughout the opening sequence of John Wick Chapter 2, including the successful warehouse jump and following chase scenes. So from this side, it might look quite pristine, but as we move around, especially on this rear quarter, you can definitely see it's been used in a John Wick film, to say the least. This was built in Los Angeles by a professional stunt car company for Jerry Immersi, or Immersi FX in New Jersey, supplier of vehicles for the John Wick franchise. And again, some reminiscence of stunt car usage on the front as well, just to give you that John Wick feel, because that film is just full of action, every single one of them. So this is actually number 4 of 5 Mustangs that were built for the production, and it was driven by Keanu Reeves himself in that opening chase sequence. So this has got some Keanu Reeves or John Wick heritage to it. So again, for any movie car collectors, fan of action films, or fan of films that have a specific automotive icon in them, this is not one to miss. One thing to note is that after the first jump car was destroyed during filming, this example was modified with its roof rig removed, as you can see from these holes on the top, and used to complete the successful jump scene and subsequent chase footage. As expected for stunt cars, this was equipped for stunt work with a reinforced chassis, which obviously we can't see at the moment, but it does have an internal roll cage, as you can hopefully see from this bar that goes down the side here. And then, of course, upgraded suspension and quick release body panels. And as expected, this car comes with a certificate of authenticity as well from Immersi FX, so that potential buyers know that this is one of the 4 of 5 cars from the film. Then again, I'm going to go through these cars just a little bit, just because I don't know too much about them and I'm not too into the particular films that they have. This, of course, is the very well-known Ecto 1 from Ghostbusters. You've obviously got another one from Ghostbusters over here. I believe this is Afterlife. The Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo. Everybody remembers that, especially as a kid. And of course, the A-Team as well. We've also got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pizza van here as well. So anybody who loves the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics or any of the films, this car is definitely going to be an interesting part to your collection. And finally, before we get to the cars that all of you are probably waiting for, the very, very iconic Herbie Fully Loaded Volkswagen Beetle. So we've been through most of the collection at this time, but now we're going to get to the cars that I've definitely come here for, and you guys are probably waiting to see as we come towards the later part of this video. So most of you will probably remember the most iconic ones from the first 1 to 3 movies, so let's start with those. So why not start with Brian's Eclipse? Now, obviously probably one of the most vibrant cars in here. It does have a little bit of damage on the bonnet, but nevertheless, obviously screen accurate decal. The paint is very, very accurate to the film. It's a little bit pale, which is exactly what it was painted to be, but in the film, due to color correction, post-production, obviously that was edited to be a little bit more vibrant. You've got screen accurate decals on the front, all fitted, sorry, on the side, all fitted in the exact location, I believe. You've got film accurate Axis 7s or Axis Neos, if I remember correctly. You've got the APR performance wing. You've obviously got the hood scoop on the top as well. That's a very, very difficult thing to do on these cars, especially as they're Japanese. The seats aren't screen accurate. Nevertheless, they're still very cool seats and they're not far off, but they aren't the Sparkos from the film. Again, the interior, it's a manual, which is great. And this is also a turboed version, which is probably a little bit more desired than some of the other variants that they do for this car. So as mentioned, this car has been built, especially from an engine perspective. This has a turbocharged 2-litre inline-4 engine. Obviously, the person who's built this originally has definitely put some time into this. And as far as I know, as a replica as a whole, this car has been built to be one of the earliest replicas that were ever done for this car, of course, after the movie came out. Again, needs a little bit of love, but definitely a very, very good project, and I've been told runs and drives at the moment. So potential buyers, trust me, this could go above its estimate, which I think is somewhere between 11 to 14,000 euros. Then moving on to Jesse's Jetta. Now, from a glance, this car pretty much is an exterior replica. It's got all the accurate vinyl and graphics that you need. It's obviously been painted in the screen accurate white. As we move down to the wheels, it's obviously got the correct Koenig wheels. And you might think, why is there calipers? Because in the film there was none. This car obviously has calipers as it is a running and driving example. Inside, it does have the screen accurate steering wheel and some nice Sparco bucket seats. But other than that, from an inside perspective of this car, it's not very accurate, but still, nevertheless, a very nice car. We also bear a signature on the rear spoiler for this car. Now, the question is it an official Paul Walker signature before he passed away? You'll probably have to look at the auction information for that, or you may have to speak to them directly. I don't know if there's a certificate of authenticity for this particular autograph, but there's only one way to find out, I guess. As we move around, there is some signs of wear, as you'd expect from a Jetta or a Vento, I believe this could be, because it's from Spain. But nevertheless, again, expected with age. I think as you move around to some of the front end panels, the front bumper needs a little bit of fitment alignment. It does sit fairly okay here, but as you move around there, I think it gets a little bit lower. Now, I know everybody's going to know where this car's from, but I'm going to leave that till slightly later in the video because this really is the big hitter in this auction. Now, although to some this may look very similar to the first Charger in the first Fast and Furious film, this is actually the screen-used Charger from Fast and Furious 7. It's powered by a 6.2 litre Chevy LS3 V8 paired to an automatic gearbox. And this blower or supercharger blower in the middle here is functional, but not from a mechanical perspective. It does what it needs to do essentially as a vehicle effect or prop. But don't let that take you away from the fact that, of course, this car is screen used. As mentioned, it was sold directly by Vehicle Effects after filming Fast and Furious Live. If those of you in the UK remember, the stunt show that we had throughout the UK and I think some European cities as well. If you can see there, it does maintain its hero spec body configuration, including the roll cage reinforcement and other visual cues on the dash. If you can see there as well, to obviously match its on-screen appearance. Again, for me, probably one of the most iconic rear ends in automotive cinema history. Now, although from an exterior perspective, this does look fairly good for a stunt car, this does need mechanical recommissioning prior to use. So for those of you who are looking at potentially purchasing this car, not only for its authenticity, but in terms of a movie car, but also for being a Dodge Charger, then you will need to potentially look at some sort of mechanical recommissioning on this. Underneath that supercharger blower, there is a crack in the block, so it will be a complete engine rebuild essentially from there, or a brand new block, of course. Moving on, those who follow me on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok know that I have a replica that I've built over time of DK's 350Z from Tokyo Drift. Now, if you remember the start of the film where Sean is at his high school, I believe, he gets called out essentially by another guy or calls the other guy out for a race in the Dodge Viper in his own Monte Carlo. And this is one of those screen-used Monte Carlos. Again, another Dennis McCarthy car, and this was used in the film's opening race sequence for the high-speed jump and barrel roll crash scenes, again, against the dude in the red Viper. Inside are some parts, hopefully to try and recommission some of it, but yeah, this needs an absolute full restoration. But personally, for those who are buying it, I think this is one of those cars where you almost don't restore because you take away that screen-used essence and kind of what it was used for. So if I was to buy this, I would probably keep it as it is. Now, moving to probably my favorite car in here, purely just because this is probably one of the most iconic Fast and Furious cars there is. It's probably a big reason as to why we love Nissan Skylines nowadays. And again, it's just an absolutely brilliant car. This, of course, is Brian's Too Fast, Too Furious Nissan Skyline GTR. Although this particular replica is a GTT fitted with the GTR badges, the C West body kit. The racing stripes are a little bit light, and of course there's some fading missing from the bottom there, but again, from a replica perspective, it's got all the accurate things it needs on the front, from the neon around the mesh on the front grille, obviously the Motec stickers and the other stickers for other brands that are needed. Of course, it's got the graphics going up the side there. Again, it doesn't fade off quite as much, but looks the part for sure. The wheels are accurate HREs to the film too. One thing I do love about this is that the headlights are actually very, very clear, which you don't see on Skylines nowadays unless they're preserved immensely. Of course, you've got the big Sea West wing on the back as well. Again, another iconic rear end, especially for those tail lights. Of course, more vinyl with the Toyo tire sticker. Again, vinyl on the other side as well. Otherwise, from an exterior perspective, this car is very, very good. Again, slightly on the light side, but again, it's probably an OEM color, probably hasn't been resprayed, so probably wanted to preserve that as a whole. Moving into the interior, these aren't the correct seats, but they do look quite good and they do match the color scheme of the car. And if you remember why there's no passenger seat, that's exactly why. And that's because of these massive NOS bottles that he uses for the jump in the first race scene where this car features. Then, as we can see on the steering wheel, of course, the NOS buttons you would expect for that massive set of NOS bottles on the side there. Again, as this is not a GTR, it doesn't have the RB26 that we all expect. So this is the RB25 DET that it has. Still a very, very good engine and will still give you loads and loads of fun, especially that this one is prepared to just under 400. So nothing quite too much, but definitely still admirable for a GTT. And now we're going to move on to all of the screen-used off-road cars from the Fast and Furious 7. If you all remember that infamous airdrop scene with Tyrese Gibson, this was the car that he sat in to drop it from the plane, or at least give it that feeling of dropping from a plane. This car was registered at Universal City Studios at one point, where it sat for quite a while, and it is accompanied by its US title. But again, a pretty much screen-used hero car from Fast and Furious 7 with Tyrese Gibson actually sitting in it for the rig is absolutely incredible. And I know we're talking about off-road, but Jesus, look at the size of those tyres, especially on a car like this. Most of you remember the old school Camaro, maybe from Too Fast, Too Furious. Not this particular one. It was a Yenko SYC Camaro, but this just looks nuts. Then we've obviously got the off-road Charger, still maintaining all of the dirt that it had from being in the film. I think this just really adds to the authenticity of it. Not touched, not cleaned, not anything to look presentable. This is exactly how it finished when it came off the set of Fast and Furious 7. This was purpose-built for the desert and mountain chase sequences in the film. It's powered by a GM LS3 V8, of course, with an automatic transmission, and does have its US title that was issued to Universal City Studios in America. For those looking to buy screen-used Fast and Furious cars, although this isn't the most iconic, it's definitely one of the most rowdy and it's definitely cool as hell. In terms of condition, it's exactly how you'd expect it to be, being an off-road buggy car, essentially. Otherwise, I mean, look, the interior is absolutely insane. It's just something straight out of a buggy scene, especially, or some sort of, you know, off-road racing type video game. And then, as mentioned, to finalize its screen accuracy, it still maintains the spare tires that it had in the trunk or the boot in the film. And finally, to finish off the off-road vehicles, we have the Fast Attack vehicle. This is one of 6 purpose-built vehicles for the iconic major mountain, highway, and plane drop sequences. Obviously, one of the most, or two of the most major parts in the film. It's powered by an LS3 V8. It retains original production specification, including the tubular steel chassis, which you can see just from the front underneath there. Not only that, but of course the off-road suspension and the fiberglass body panels. Again, an absolutely beast of a machine, and I could just imagine seeing this going down some sort of UK street. As we move to the interior here, it's exactly as you'd expect for an attack vehicle, an off-road vehicle, or something that's going down mountains or dropping out of a plane. Very, very simple but effective bucket seats. We've also got the Sparco steering wheel there, the automatic transmission. Again, this is not for an interior, design, especially for this type of car. It's not meant to look cool on the inside. It's meant to just be very simple and have all the effective stuff running underneath it. Finally, continuing with the theme of Fast and Furious 7, we've got Letty's Plymouth Barracuda and Dom's Plymouth Roadrunner. Again, another screen-used car from Fast and Furious 7 that was built by Dennis McCarthy, registered to Vehicle Effects Incorporated. Again, as I mentioned, this was Letty Ortiz or Michelle Rodriguez's car in the race war sequence, if you remember when she returned. as well as, of course, as you'd expect, it is fitted with a Mopar V8 engine. And surprisingly, if we move over, probably the first for the day, and probably a first for the day, it's fitted with a manual transmission for this V8. So very, very cool to say the least. I think realistically today, I'm just giving you guys rear end beauty pretty much. So let me know which of your favorite rear ends of some of today's cars have been your favorite. Again, it may not be the most recognizable and notable cars from any of the films, but regardless, it has authenticity from being screen used in Fast and Furious 7. It has relation to the film. It has all the documentation needed. So if anybody's building a Fast and Furious collection that wants something like this, and probably an easier one to get into than maybe some of the more recognizable ones, this is also going to be one of them. Then the Plymouth Roadrunner. This was used on screen as Dominic Toretto's hero Plymouth Roadrunner. It still maintains the Chrysler V8 that's underneath here. Again, probably not the most notable car, still really cool, driven by Vin Diesel. Personally, for me, I love this orange paintwork paired with these chrome wheels. It just looks insane and is very, very Fast and Furious-esque, especially for the time and just Vin Diesel's character. Another car that was previously registered at Universal City Studios. So again, if you're looking at the auction and you're looking to start a Fast and Furious collection or get into screen used movie cars, this car could be another one to look at, especially when you're looking at starting those. Then one maybe some don't remember is this Buick GNX from Fast and Furious 4. If you do remember, this car was used in the scene where they tried to hijack the gold truck, I think it was. And everything about this car is commissioned to drive in reverse. Everything was shifted to the rear. The engine is actually in the trunk. As I say, the car is ingenuously produced to drive in reverse, which is crazy for something like that. So again, not one of the most notable cars you would expect from the franchise, but definitely a cool car to add to the collection. And again, just to prove the fact that it can drive in reverse, the wheels are completely the wrong way as you'd expect on a car like this. And finally, the car you've all been waiting for. This is the big one. This is the Too Fast, Too Furious Evo, but it's not just any Too Fast, Too Furious Evo. It's not a replica. It's a screen-used car from the film. And again, not just any screen-used car. This is screen-used stunt car #1. This car has been confirmed by Craig Lieberman, by the VIN, so this is definitely the real deal. This isn't a replica. This has all the documentation from the film. Of course, it's got the accurate graphics. It's got the correct wheels. It's got everything you would expect. Even the driver Paul Walker sign on the left-hand side of the vehicle, just to show that he was the guy who drove this car and add a little bit more to that authenticity. Is finished in that house of color gold that I think we'd all agree is a little bit Marmite. Some people love it, some people hate it. Me personally, I love it. I think it looks great, especially under lights. It's very, very pristine, as you'd expect, being the Hero 1 stunt car. This is the one that, you know, you wouldn't want to wreck, essentially. It still maintains very, very good condition on the wheels, on the graphics, etc. I mean, look at the lights, for instance. You're never, ever going to see that on a JDM Evo nowadays, especially in the UK. As we move around to the rear, obviously you've got the screen accurate spoiler because it is the car. The only bit of damage you will see due to some of its use is just on the rear bumper here. And as expected, some near the exhaust as well. Now, some of you eagle-eyed viewers may notice that there's a bit of a gap towards the rear headlights, and that's because this car originally, being an Evo 7, wasn't being launched and sold in America at the time. The Evo 8 to follow was eventually going to be sold there, which is why they had to basically modify an Evo 8 to become an Evo 7, obviously put all the correct badging on the rear, and again, use those lights to make sure that it was accurate to that particular model, but still, again, in the film, make it look like a car that was going to be launched very soon. This car still retains all of its production-specific use, and of course, is the only one that was actually fully built to push out the 330 horsepower. This was featured in Craig Lieberman's Too Fast, Too Furious behind the scenes video, so if any of you want to go and see that, go and check out Craig's channel. As mentioned, this is the only car to feature the 330 horsepower output with this 2-litre 4G63 turbocharged engine. Of course, you've got all the little silicone hoses, the block probably needs a slight recommission, but do you want to change that? Probably not, just because of the output of this car. It's got everything you need, everything you'd expect. So yeah, a very, very, very cool car to say the least. Then, as you'd expect, moving into the interior, it has every accuracy you would expect from being a Hero 1 stunt car. You've obviously got the NOS buttons on the steering wheel. Again, fairly stock interior as a whole. It's obviously still got the blue seats, if you can see those in there. But the key thing is that it has the markings from the film. Not only that, but if you remember recently, Bonhams were at the Goodwood Festival of Speed and they sold a Veilside Mazda RX-7 that was driven by Sung Kang, which was one of 3 stunt cars. And that went for, I think it was £900,000, including or plus fees, I can't remember. But essentially in dollars, the $1.2 million Mazda that became. So if that was driven by Sung Kang, and that's from one of probably the least performing movies that were produced by Universal from the Fast and Furious franchise, this was one of the best. So the fact that this has been driven by Paul Walker and is the Hero 1 stunt car means big money in my eyes. That's going to give you a great example as to why this will probably be around that, especially because it's the #1 stunt car. So it'll probably fetch, way more than estimated specifically. And the best part, there's no reserve on this. So if somebody does get a really good deal, trust me, it's going to be very beneficial for you. So really for me, if you're going to be a movie car collector, especially a Fast and Furious one, this is the one you're going to be eyeing. And that's going to conclude today's video and my trip to Paris. So thank you all for watching. If you are watching this video right now, this auction has been taking place, or is taking place, from the 21st of November until the 28th of November 2025. So make sure you get your hands on one of these cars if you can, because you'll be buying cinema history or very, very good replicas for something that you can use for yourself. Otherwise, I just want to say a big thank you to Bonhams and Pop Central Museum for having me here. It's been a very, very cool experience, and it's been incredible to get in front of all these cars, to say the least, as a big passion project for myself. So you never know, guys, you might see one of these cars on the channel very, very soon. If we did purchase something, let me know in the comments what you guys would like to see us buy. Realistically, I know you're probably all going to say that it's going to be a big money car, so let's see what happens. I think it will be a really cool discussion in the comments. But yeah, again, it's been a really cool trip and I'm very fortunate to be able to see these cars. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.